Good day, everyone. This is Woman to Woman, and I'm your host, Miss Nene.
And I'm your host, Lisa. In-laws. Everyone has them. So let's talk about it.
Well, you have current in-laws. I have ex-in-laws. I just want to know, how important is it to have a relationship with your in-laws?
I think it's very important. You know, I know a lot of people, even in my family, that don't get along with their in-laws, the mother-in-law, the father. But, excuse me, I was blessed. I didn't have that problem. I love my mother-in-law to death. She was my best friend, Ace Coon Boom.
I know.
So we was tight, and I'm tight with my sister-in-laws, too. So I am truly blessed because I don't have that feeling, that I don't have that problem. And I think it is important because when the two marry, you become one. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, whether people like it or not, the families are supposed to come together because there's certain things you're going to come together, holidays. But nowadays, we come together, one family on one side, the other family on the other. Yes. And that's with a lot throughout the whole family as a general.
Well, you know, I had, I'm trying to choose my words. Wow. I'm trying to choose my words wisely.
Be nice.
Can you tell?
Be nice. You can't even get it out.
Let me give me a second, listeners, please, because I don't want to start a war or anything, but I mean, I want to be honest. I think that a relationship with your in-laws, I think it's important too. But when you're dealing with different type of people, you know, everyone, we are how we were raised, you know. And if the matriarch of the family is not maintaining the matriarch,
that's me now.
The matriarch duties,
I'm a matriarch,
and the younger generation gets to lord over, you know, different things and not respect the head.
Exactly.
Then things are not going to fall in line. I've had boyfriends whom I've had better relationships with their families, you know, versus my marriage.
Right.
Now, I can't say everything was all bad. You take people for what they are. If someone show you they're two-faced, then believe they're two-faced. If someone show you that they like you, but if their child or brother or whatever does right or wrong, it doesn't matter how they feel about you or what's right or what's wrong, they're going to ride with whomever. Then take that for face value so your feelings don't get hurt. Because I was offended a lot of times in my situation because I felt like, you know, my mother always was you know, she had 12 kids and she had our back.
Right.
But if we were out of pocket, there was nothing was not going to keep her from letting us know we were out of pocket.
Exactly.
My mother did not kiss our butts as her children. Now, when you have parents that kiss their kids' butts and don't want their kids angry with them and won't tell their kids that they're wrong, things somehow get out of line. And that's where the in-laws, that's where, you know, you have problems being in an in-law situation, you know, because a daughter-in-law, we want a close relationship with our mother-in-laws all the time. I feel that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are different entities that prevent that. Now, if he has sisters and stuff, you are lucky. You guys don't even use in-laws in your family. That's your sister.
Right, that's what I call them.
And I know every morning, you're going to talk to Annie.
Yes.
You're going to talk to Annie, you're going to talk to me. Yes. That's a sure thing every morning. But Annie is your sister. She's not your sister-in-law.
That's
you know, and Christabel was your mother. She was not your mother-in-law.
She was.
Rest in peace. But, you know, my situation, I divorced my ex-husband. I divorced him. His family divorced me and our kid. You know, so
that happened to me.
It's a bad situation. So sometimes in-laws, and I'm not talking about extended family members, aunties and uncles out of state.
We're talking about mother, daddy, sister, brother.
Yeah, the people right here
family,
in the immediate situation.
Family.
You know, and I'm happy, I'm glad to say that my stepdaughter is her and Jamie, you know, they still have their relationship. She did move to Vegas.
And that's wonderful.
But, you know, it took a toll, and we just got back together.
Correct.
You know, and I was devastated by losing those kids.
Yes.
And the kid, though, his kids were the only thing that hurt me.
Right.
You know, because
you raised them.
I did not care about the other stuff, and it really devastated me that my kid got shuffled around in this situation. I feel like there has to be a mutual respect. And even when you're dating, like I said, I've had boyfriends whom their mothers still call me their daughter. After 10, 15, 20 years.
Yes.
You know, high school boyfriends who moms still call me.
But then it just depends on the type of person you are. Because I have a very strong personality. So take, for example, my mom and Randy. That was a struggle for him because my mom was my heart. She was my everything. Mm-hmm. But she would always put me in my place. You know, like, you can't talk to your husband like that. Your husband come first, not your kids. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No, biblically, your husband come first. She would keep your hands to yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, she would put me in my place. But because I come from a background of strong women, and I'm just as strong, he didn't really know how to handle it. So to him, it was a power struggle.
With him and your mother?
Correct. When that had nothing to do with it. Because you can't come between somebody and their mother. Right. So why even try? You know, but...
So to him, to your husband, in-laws are not an important factor.
Well, no. To him it wasn't. And my thing was, that's my mother.
Right.
You know, and at the same time, I've loved Christabel from day one. We've always got along, never had problems. Yeah, we had little bumps in the road, but we squash it, we move on, and that's it.
Okay, so now that you have, so basically, like you're saying...
and then don't forget, I have my stepmom.
Well, yeah, but that's... Okay.
That's another mom that I have in my life, and I call her mom. Yes, but... That was a hard situation there because of the circumstances. Mm-hmm. The circumstances were really difficult.
You and your Randy, your husband's mom, were like...
That's my best friend.
You guys were inseparable.
Yeah.
You and Randy and your mom did not have the relationship. And then you...
they had the relationship because my mom... is a relationship person. That's just who she is. But he was threatened by her. He was, we were very young, and he just felt like she had all the influence over me, which she did.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, you may not even be able to answer this, but when you have someone that's been married a few times, divorced and remarried.
Yes.
How does the previous in-laws play a role in the current situation? Now, I'm a true believer that if you have a man and he was married and he built a great relationship with his wife's family, they're divorced, I think he can still maintain the close-knit relationship with his in-laws if he keeps things intact.
Right, as long as he stay in his lane and not start no mess.
But see, here's the thing. You cannot go to all their family events.
No.
When you are remarried.
Because you should be going to your new wife's family events. Right.
And so there's a respect factor, but I do think that those relationships are valid relationships and they should be respected.
Right.
Only if that common denominator, that person, keeps everybody in their place.
But that's the key word, relationships, because all relationships are different. Now, this is another thing. That was a big problem we had in the beginning of our marriage because he has a huge family. Mm-hmm. And I love that because I came from a big family, but unfortunately, when my mom and dad split, the whole family divorced me as well. Okay. So that was a whole nother thing there. So it was just my mom's family is small. Okay. So
you grew up with a small environment.
Well, I did, but I grew up with a big family because I was still around my dad's family till I was 14. Okay. And then once I got 14, they went their ways and that was that. So unfortunately, I don't have relationships with that side of my family. So Randy family embraced me. And I just love them. And that's my family. But the thing is, since my mother was only one person, come holidays and stuff, okay, well, who house do you go to? He wanted us to go to his family. I wanted to go to my mom's house, but she was so great, she would just come over to his family. Because it's just one of me.
But did he have a new relationship at the time?
Well,
Your dad?
Yeah, I didn't even go to my dad.
Okay.
We talking about my mom and Randy.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about Randy want to go to his family on the holidays.
See, they don't know who.
I want to go.
They probably can't follow.
You not following.
Right, so I know they can't.
I did. I said Randy.
Okay.
I said Randy family adopted me, took me in. They welcomed me and took me in. But now, during the holidays, where do you go? He want to go to his family. I want to go to my mom's. Well, it was just me and my mom and my grandmother. So she would be like, it's just one of me, so I'll come. But they were so gracious. When my mom moved and bought her house, they would all go to her house. Mm-hmm. His whole entire family.
See, that's a good in-law situation. A lot of people.
But I'm just saying, we still had those arguments though behind closed doors. Even though they may not have known it, me and him had those battles, and it was a battle.
Yeah.
And it's like, it shouldn't be a battle. And I have that same situation now.
Well,
I have a child that goes.
That's what I was about to touch on.
But yet, when it comes to our side,
you have 4 sons.
He don't really care about, but he goes over there. Because at the end of the day, the female has all the power. I'm a female. I know.
We should. Yeah, we should.
I know the situation.
We should. Right.
But my thing is, you my child. Here I go. I bore you. You come from my loin. This is your family. Don't forget about your family.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But he's building his relationship with his in-laws. But you guys have taken her in the way your mother-in-law took you in. Have you noticed that?
Well, yeah, I want to be the best mother-in-law I can be. If I could be anything like Christabel, I would love it, because I'm going to stay out your business. She never got in my business. I put her in my business. Your son. But other than that, she would listen to me vent. And we go on about our day, and we talk all day long. Now, look,
that was my issue. If I talk to my mother-in-law in confidence, I have to, in the back of my mind, understand she may hang up with me and call him. We didn't have only time it was a confidential situation is when I held her confidence, when she told me not to say anything. And I didn't. But things, I could tell that he would know what's going on, because he would walk in with a different demeanor or whatever. And, she would always start a situation, like throw the rock and then hide her hand, like I'm
wow.
I'm just an older lady and I don't want to get involved. And I constantly,
I was so shocked. I just could not.
No one understood that,
because she looked like the sweetest thing going, from homemade apple pie and some ice cream, girl.
And it's a lot of vindictive things that were done, and I'm sure that there are probably things somewhere down the line. People hurt others, and I probably have said or done things that I should not have at a certain point. But no one goes into a situation, wanting to not be treated fair.
See, this is the difference.
I know that. I know what type of daughter-in-law I am. I know what type of sister-in-law I am. I know what type of friend I am. So
right.
I'm good in that,
But this is the difference, and this is what I say to some people. First of all, you need to give people the benefit of the doubt. When you love somebody, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, whether I love you or not. That's just who I am. I like to think the best of people. Mm-hmm. Don't always think the worst of people, because, somebody will say something, and then you just take it out of context and stuff going through your mind. If you love me enough and we have a good relationship, you should be able to pick up the phone and say, well, I heard this, or this was said, or you hurt my feelings. We need to be able to conversate.
In-laws, right?
Correct. In-laws. Yeah. We need to be able to talk about it.
People need
not let it fester and just sit there, and then somebody's upset with you and you don't know why. And you're like, what is going on?
No one is perfect, and people have to learn to give others room for error.
I just said the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, room for error. That's it.
Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But people don't tend to do that. They just treat it like it's not, important, and to me it is important. It's just as important
As soon as they
your
start
regular
saying,
family.
as soon as they say, you ain't my sister, or you're not my brother, you my sister's
Exactly.
husband. That's when you can instantly tell where that mindset is. I'm dealing with you because you're here.
Right. And
Sometimes
when people show you who they are, believe them.
believe them.
Believe
exactly.
them.
I'm
'Cause it's gonna
not
slip
I'm not
up.
married now, but a relationship is a relationship to me. So
It is.
I just feel like if there's no mutual respect, and some people are just downright messy, it is what it is. Take
yes.
people for what they are,
It's true.
and sometimes
But then- but this is-
cannot mend
But this is the thing.
in-law relationships.
If you downright messy, show it to me in the beginning. Don't be fake and phony. Show me who you
That
are
is
in
your-
the beginning.
that's your
Because if
statement.
you show me in the beginning, I know who you are and I know how to deal with you accordingly.
Yes.
But when you're fake and phony and you're putting on a facade and then you come out whenever you come out, and I'm looking like, wow.
I didn't invest.
All right.
Yeah.
Now I know, but excuse me. Why are you doing that? Why people just can't be real? Why is there so many fake people in the world?
My goodness, you ask that question almost every week. I don't know if you realize that, but you ask that question almost every week.
I don't get it. Like, you need to be you and be your authentic you, and people are either gonna love you or they're not.
Now, I do think that when two mother-in-laws do not get along, it can create problems for those two kids that
Of course it can.
have created that union
Right,
to
because
bring them.
both the children love their moms, and you want the moms to get along. But once again, I didn't have that problem. My mother and Christabel was great.
Okay, but now
I didn't have
but
that
now
problem.
you have 4 boys, and they are going to
Right.
be in union with someone. So,
And my sister has told me to stay in my lane so many times, and I do. She has already warned me about things to
She's
come,
been there, done
and
that.
everything she tells me come to pass. So I do listen, but I get to call her and get to crying, and she be like, she listen, and she be like, I told you. I told you. And I'm like, but it didn't even go down like that. And she like, yeah, I know. But because we have boys, we get the short end of the stick, and
Yeah.
it's not
But
right.
I told you that, right? Years ago.
But this is what I tell my boys, I'm not accepting it. You came from my loin.
if you say
I
going one more
birthed you.
time, we're going to have to take a break.
I am your mother. So therefore, what I expect it from you. I don't expect it from your wife. When it comes to my birthday, Christmas, Mother Day, I expect that gift to come from you.
Well-
I don't expect you to go send your wife out to go buy me something.
But sometimes it's like that, Lisa. You did it for your husband.
I did it for me. 'Cause
Right,
I
but-
love
but-
my mother that much.
But that's a normal situation.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Women shop for their
Well,
men
I thank
on a regular
God my
basis.
sons to this day still shop for me.
Yeah, but
I thank God.
that's not a big issue.
Yes, it is. That's
Women-
not asking much. I gotta go shop for you and your wife and your
Women-
kids.
women do it all the
So
time.
why can't you just go shop for me? But see, this is
But
the
that's
difference.
the difference between his relationship with
But
you.
hold on, this is the difference. The in-law don't know me that well. That's the difference. You know me better than that in-law.
It depends, cause your in-laws know you, they know you inside out, and I think it just depends on that situation. But I do like staying on topic. Our question was how important are in-law relationships, and I think an in-law relationship in some cases can break or make a relationship.
But see, that's
And it
where it
shouldn't-
shouldn't be
it
cut
shouldn't.
right.
But it can cause so much havoc and chaos to where it brings turmoil to that couple
And
that,
I've been there. I've been there with my mother and Randy. I've been there.
yeah. And it could potentially make or break a relationship. And
But you gotta
and
learn.
in my situation, it did have something to do with the demise of my marriage.
You think so?
I think that when you have people constantly in your ear, when you already have a very distorted mindset of things, and then you have a yes man in your corner instead of someone saying, let me sit you down and tell you you're wrong.
Correct.
You know, if you have someone that's constantly in your ear that's like, applauding your horrible behavior and telling you, well, it's okay, I have the money to take care of you, instead of, listen, your family, you need to do this. And
exactly.
I knew this day was going to come, and you need to, it play a part in.
Well, I know it plays a part because I push the issue with my child, like, don't let it be an issue. Don't make our issue your issue. Mm-hmm. Y'all need to move on and agree to disagree, because you can't deal when it comes to somebody's mama. Okay?
Right.
There is no competition. There is no.
Right. Don't put you shouldn't have to compete with mother-in-laws and previous kids. That's just stupid.
No, you shouldn't.
It doesn't make sense.
Because your mom is your mom and her mom is her mom.
But you shouldn't have to compete with previous in-laws either.
Oh, no, not at all. They should be a non-factor.
Right. And so when you're dealing with someone that has a slew of previous in-laws, and maybe she or he cannot separate, that was my past, but we still have great relationships, but you're my future, and let me put you in your rightful place, then that's going to create an issue as well. But see, a wife should never put her husband, or a husband should never put his new woman in a position to feel like she's in competition with parents, previous children, and ex-in-laws.
Exactly, because all those relationships are different, and if you keep it where it's supposed to be, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
Because whatever issue you guys are having, deal with that issue and don't bring it into the relationship.
Right. But then, once again, before we wrap up, I just want to say that has a lot to do with that common denominating person to make sure everything is lined up accordingly.
True.
If you want a happy life,
happy wife,
and sometimes a happy husband, because women make the same mistakes that men do. Learn from your mistakes and remember to keep everyone in their respective lane. But of course, if you are in a marriage or a seriously dating situation, try to build good bonds with your significant others.
With each other.
People, because not only are you just with him, but whatever is an extension of him or her
is an extension of you. And that's the family.
Yeah, and a family unit, a strong family unit is important.
And we shouldn't be on separate sides.
Yeah.
We had birthday parties and your family on one side, our family on another side. We can't even intermingle and talk. That's not good.
Yeah, so the bottom line is, like I said, build good family relationships, respect your in-laws, and in-laws respect respect the units that your loved ones have created with other people.
All right. Yeah. Well, here we go. Food for the day. Who said the word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness?